Hello, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's live discussion on The Expanse, Season 6, Episode 5, Why We Fight. I am joined here by some very special guests who have reluctantly formed an alliance with me. First joining, as always, every week, Darrin from D's Reviews. Darrin, thanks so much for joining.
Mark, really excited to jump in. Can't believe there's only one episode left, but they gave us a nice one to sort of jump into today, so I can't wait to get into it.
Cool. And Alyssa from Alyssa Jean Reviews. Alyssa, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I, too, cannot wait to get into this episode.
Well, let's go ahead and get into this. Like, what did everyone think of it? I said in my review, I think this is one of the best episodes of this show. I loved it. This is like huge, like character payoffs. It almost felt like I feel like some of the character journeys are almost complete with just this episode, and like the character moments were just so damn good, even though it was just people talking, like in rooms talking. But I thought it was so powerful. Liz, I guess we'll start with you.
Yeah, this episode was amazing. I think it's probably one of the most effective penultimate episodes I've ever seen. Because I think a penultimate episode, especially when we're talking about potential season ending, although we don't know what they're going to do after, but we're looking at a season finale or series finale, I should say, next week. I think this was an incredible penultimate episode because the penultimate episode should not only really set up for that finale, but also get you pumped for that finale. And at the end, when Arasarella put her hand out and Drummer took the hand and the credits, I was like, yes, finale! Like, so, and amazing character interactions all throughout this episode. I mean, just fantastic character interactions, which I'm sure we will talk a lot about. But the big question that I'm going to have that they better answer next week is, did Bobby go with Amos to that brothel? And if she went with him, did she go with him or did she go with him? Because that's what we need to know. My money is on she went with him for sure. But we need to know these things.
That's what I want it to be. I think it'd be so much more interesting.
I like the fact they kind of leave that up. I love they do sort of end it, so at least we, for the audience, can kind of make that conclusion there. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. And you're right. There's a lot of character payoffs, a lot of larger arcs and smaller arcs that really hit because they have spent so much time building up these storylines and doing these things. My memory of the episode is this is Drummer and some other people doing things. I'm really glad that Karaji was really kind of front and center in this, and we got so much of Drummer's story and her sort of move and arc here was awesome. But then again, even rewatching, I'm like, oh yeah, this little bit and this little moment and these two talking and these. So yeah, it was a lot of good payoff, but also getting us really excited for what's going to come next. And yeah, the ending with that handshake, and it's like, oh, it is on now.
Yeah, and I got a lot more to say about that, but we'll get more into when we get into the weeds of the episode. Anyway, I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat. Brandon joining us as always. Great to see you. Also, Silver Skill, great to see you, and also the Space People. I can say hi to your sons, Lance and Mark. Hello, although this isn't TV, but close enough, I guess. But hello, thanks for joining. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in the episode. And I know, Alyssa, you just gave this episode a lot of praise, but we're going to talk about the part which I'm sure you did not like first, just to get it out of the way. Let's go ahead and talk about the Laconia stuff. So Zan did not turn into a flesh-eating, brain-eating zombie, but
Yet.
Yes, yeah, that's an important qualifier there. But he is alive where he was once dead. I kind of complained about this scene a bit in my review that it was too like dark. I don't know if it was the TV I was watching on, but it was hard for me to make out what was going on. But I read the short story, so I can figure it out that she fell asleep and was calling out for the dogs, and the dogs came while she was sleeping, took her brother away, and she woke up and the brother was alive again. And apparently, he can see shit that she can't see, and she was acting a little bit weird, kind of like himself. But it's like he was very nonchalant about it. Like, oh, you just died. It's like, oh, okay. Maybe that's why everything looks different now. Like, it was a weird situation. But anyway, Darrin, I guess I'll ask you first about this one. Do you have any like theories on what this means? Like, what is this exactly? Why? How this boy is able to be brought back to life or anything?
I thought it was quite obvious he's a proto-molecule hybrid, very much like the kids on the lab on the moon back in seasons 2, two and 3, I guess. In fact, and yes, it was very dark, and the eyes looked black, but with like a little glint in them, which I was catching as sort of like a proto-molecule kind of signature and stuff. So to me, even the kind of dark blotches on the face, is I was like, oh, proto-molecule. Oh, they're seeing something. Yeah, we saw that with May's friend when he was going through his change, that he was seeing stuff. Then he mentioned something like, I didn't, what's it like? That must be what it's like being in the substrate.
Yes.
Or some other weird. And I'm like,
yeah.
This is okay. This is exactly what he is. Whether he's going to stay human or morph more, to me, this is just the beginning again of what we've already seen is going to happen.
Now, what was interesting is what he said was, what does it mean to be in a substrate?
Yeah, okay,
so
yes.
He doesn't even know what it means yet. Somehow that word came to him after he was brought back to life, which to me makes it, there's a bit of a creepy element to it. Yeah, and Brandon mentions in the chat, Katoa was the name of the
Katoa.
boy.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah. So, to me, it was like, this is what we talked about this last week. Is this and the next little bit scene I'm sure we'll get to were the two kind of most predictable. This is what's going to happen, and expecting proto-molecule child, and that's who popped up. So I'm just sort of curious at this point. What does this mean for Laconia? How are they going to leave us to tease or hint towards wherever we may pick things up if the show is allowed to continue to do that?
And Alyssa, do you care at all about this storyline?
Yeah, whatever. Like, it's fine. I've accepted that it's a thing now. So, no, I will say that I thought the proto-molecule kid, though not a zombie, was very creepy. Like, I'm expecting like an army of proto-molecule kids tomorrow to just give me nightmare. I mean, next week to just give me nightmares. I absolutely agree with Darrin. I think that that's what is happening. That it is maybe not exactly the same thing, because those were created intentionally, and this is a different thing. This is from proto-molecule dogs, but I think it's in the same ballpark, the same vein. I don't have much to say, but yeah, did that kid creep me out? That's all I'm gonna say. I think next week it might be even creepier. I don't know how they're gonna wrap this story up in like a little 5-minute thing. So I don't know. I still think they should have done it like as a movie or whatever, so that they could like spend more time on it, and I'd be more interested. But I am curious to see. I am actually curious to see what they do.
He comes back. The Admiral pops in, goes, "What's going on here?" Then what's his name pops in, goes, "He'll be the key for the link," and then it'll end. And yeah. I don't know. I'm guessing.
So, Brandon in the chat, no, you should not spoil this for Alyssa. Don't do that.
No, don't spoil things, Brandon. What are you doing? And Darrin too. You would be spoiling it for Darrin too, not just me.
Oh yeah,
that's the book I know.
Yeah. I will say I did think this I do agree with you, Alyssa. This should have been its own thing. I think out of everything in season 6, this felt the most rushed to me. I think it would have benefited from more time rather than simply little things to open up each episode with. And the fact that it has nothing to do with anything else going on is a little. I can see how that's distracting, but I'm still digging it. I still like it. And again, we're talking before we went on air about how I mentioned in my review that I'm totally confident that the finale will wrap up all the storylines really well. That it's not going to feel rushed. It's all going to be really good. This side storyline on Laconia is the one thing I'm just a bit iffy about, but I'm sure they could wrap it up. Says Factory. Like, I'm not too worried about it, but I think overall it's just the thing that's rushed the most.
Well, I hope they don't eat up more of that 65-minute runtime for this than they normally do. Like, I hope it's not like they do the opening credits and then there's more of it. No! I'll be like, no! So
you got 5 minutes, finish it.
Yeah, exactly. You got 5 minutes to finish it, then I want to see the storylines I really care about. So
yeah. I suspect they will. I think that they will finish in 5 minutes. And that's why I think it's going to feel rushed, because I think they're just going to spend 5 minutes on it. But I agree. The rest of the episode should be devoted for what's really important. The Space People says, I hope he doesn't disassemble his sister. Remember, like, Kotor, ripped those people apart and disassembled them? Oh, my God. That was definitely spooky. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's go ahead and move over to stuff that's more important. Let's start with Mars attacks. So this is, I don't know how you felt about this, but from last week when Admiral Torino was like, "Oh, we're gonna go attack Medina anyway," I kind of knew this would happen. I don't know if that's because I read the books. I don't even remember if this happened in the books, to be honest. But I just got that impression because I knew from at first what I thought was ships, and then someone in the chat, I think it was Alex, corrected me. It wasn't ship; it was railguns that Laconia was sending to Medina Station. So I kind of so they have these railguns that are just going to blast the shit out of this Martian fleet, and that's exactly what happened. And so I kind of knew it when they came in all bad. I was like, surrender! Oh, just destroy them! We'll make quick work of them. And then all of a sudden, poof, they're dead. I really like that. I thought that raised the stakes a lot. Darrin, did you expect this to happen, or were you surprised by it?
Oh no, this was the other one that was completely predictable. The minute that she was like, "We're gonna go and do," I mean, the one surprise is that the Mars Admiral was there with the ships. I thought it would just be ships, and she's back at Ceres Station or wherever the command and control is, leading this. So that was kind of surprising. Like, wow, you jumped on a ship and headed right here, as opposed to just sending your fleet. Okay. But other than that, yeah. We could probably look back to last week's show, and it was going to be, Mars are going to show up and they're going to get creamed. And that's pretty much it. It totally confirms the railgun. It does obviously up the stakes for everyone. And it was beautifully done. The fact that we got some great effect shots, and then it was just, oh no, and it was poop gone, poop gone, poop gone, poop. Not even explosion, just gone, which I thought really sort of sold the power of what they were dealing with.
Now, I didn't want to jump in the chat real quick. Alex points out that it was an awesome scene that didn't happen in the books. So that answers my question. That didn't happen in the books. I think the books went some other way to describe how badass and destructible these guns are, whereas in the show, it's better to see it in action. So I think is the right decision to do that. Alyssa, your thoughts on this?
Oh, yeah, it was absolutely the most predictable thing in the world, especially when the Admiral was like, "Oh, surrender now, or it will spare your lives." I'm like, "Oh, they're dead." This is they are. Even if I didn't know about the railguns, it's just one of the most predictable tropes in all of fiction. That, "Oh, we got you now, surrender," and they're dead. It was very predictable. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or anything, but yeah, it was definitely. You had asked at the top whether we saw it coming or not, and yeah, from a million miles.
But still, beautifully done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's interesting you said it wasn't because of the rail guns earlier, just because it's the way this seems like that didn't play out.
Yeah, I'd actually forgotten about I just didn't put it together that they were bringing. I didn't remember it was rail guns, but Alex in the chat a couple weeks ago had said they were bringing weapons in and not a ship, and I didn't put two and two together there. So I didn't know that that's what it was or going to be, but I knew that they were going to get their asses kicked. That.
Yeah, I mean, Alyssa basically said, "Run out there trying to prove our manhood before."
Yes.
However she put it, as beautifully as Alyssa always does.
Yeah.
And so you knew that's exactly what happened. Marcos is totally expecting them to make a rush for the station. He's got some sort of trap, and this is an impressive trap.
It's a trap.
So, yeah. Where is Admiral Akbar? But
he should be inserted in all of these shows, just up in the corner.
No, I remember there was like a YouTube video once that had like scenes from all these movies with classic traps, and Admiral Akbar would just pop up at the start of each scene going, "It's a trap!"
Yeah, I think I saw that. There's definitely a ton of there's been a ton of "it's a trap" memes over the years.
Yeah. That's what we all love Akbar for.
Anywho, so it was interesting that Alyssa kind of was having doubts about it, and she was saying that Bobby, I was being too cowardly. I should have sent the ships, and Bobby's trying to be like nice and like, no, it's not my place to say. And then she keeps pushing her. She's like, well, yeah, this self-pity bullshit's not going to help anyone. So why don't you just get the hell out of it and fight back? And you can tell she regretted it. And says, like, oh shit, did I overstep my bounds? And Officer was just like, get out. But I think she needed to hear that. And because I think her self-doubts were bullshit, because I was thinking that the moment she said, I should have sent ships, then they'd be destroyed too. And I think Bobby should have pointed that out personally. Like, your ships would not have helped. Like, they would just be more dead people. Anyway, any thoughts on that? Darrin, I guess I'll start with you.
Well, no, yeah, that was the one thing that she was, we are seeing this arc for Avasarala of, trying to be a better person in her own part, and a lot of her arc throughout this episode is kind of reinforcing that. But yeah, it's like, no, your first instincts was right. If you had sent ships, they just would have gone. You wouldn't have had time. You would have had time to maybe dodge the first shot because they were too busy killing all the other ships next to you for you to do something else. I mean, that was about the length of time of what it would have been. So no, it was good for Bobby to shut her down. But it was also kind of a little soft for her to be rethinking that. Like, did I do the wrong thing? No, you totally did the right thing. Now you've got more ships that you can do a coordinated planned attack with.
Alyssa, anything then?
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with Bobby too that it's no time for this self-pity bullshit, and I think she should have just told her that from the beginning. But she was trying to be, diplomatic and like, it's not my place. And Avasarala is the one who actually pushed her. She was like, no, tell me, and then she's like, well, yes, this self-pity bullshit is just not going to fly. We just need to go and fight, and then Bobby shouldn't feel bad about that either, because Avasarala asked for it, and so she gets what she gets what she asked for, and if she doesn't like it, it's her own fault. She asked for that, but maybe subconsciously Avasarala knew she needed to hear that. So, I don't know. I think it was absolutely agree with Bobby, and I'm glad that she said that to Avasarala.
Yeah, I think Avasarala was upset in the moment, but I think she realizes that's what she needed to hear. That was the kind of tough love that she needed.
Oh yeah.
But it is interesting that because the scene starts off with the admirals and everyone advising her they want to go like full tilt and let's send a whole entire fleet after Marco and stop him from getting to Medina because it kind of spell out the strategic situation here where Marco basically can just hide in the ring space under the railgun's protection and just build resources, gain all the resources from all the other worlds beyond the ring gates. No one else will have access to. He can give infinite supplies, food, build ships, and just keep the war going like indefinitely. And plus, they also kind of laid out that he has more ships, even though the Earth and Mars ships are more powerful. He has more ships, so he can kind of dictate how they spread their fleet and sort of dictate where where Mars and Earth goes. And so the generals or admiral's plan was just to go rushing full on and try to stop Marco from getting from Medina before he can enact that plan. But I think Avasarala sees that it's not going to work. And I like how the way she says, like, I'm not going to send more people to their deaths unless I know there's a chance we can actually fucking win. And they I love the way she put the admirals in their place. And it's interesting that she did like doubt herself immediately after doing that, but I think she was totally right. Alyssa, I don't know if you had any more thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I really love that she put the generals or admirals or whatever in their place. Like they just shut up as soon as she said that, and that was that was a great line. She was absolutely 100% right. If I'm going to send people to their deaths, then at least want to have a chance to win. So, yeah, and she shouldn't have doubted it later on. No, she was right. She was dead on.
Well, and the other reality is okay, even if you get to Marco, and even if you potentially take Marco out before he gets to the ring, there are still Marco's forces in control of Medina Station and the railguns that you're going to have to deal with that may not just surrender as soon as Marcos dies. So this isn't. It's again, it's the same type of thing that just hit up Mars. Is you are running just to beat and fight and shoot and give it your all because you got to win. But there's no real plan of like, okay, how are we actually going to deal with these issues? How are we going to get Marcos beforehand? Can we do it? And will that actually change the war and get us back to the rings, or does it not? Is somebody else just going to step into his place?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna just emphasize that just because if you kill Marco, the railguns don't just magically disappear.
Exactly.
And the people behind the railguns aren't going to be, oh, well, you got us. We don't have Marco anymore. They're not going to care about that.
I mean, he is like the figurehead and like the leader at the move, but so it would cripple them, but it wouldn't completely defeat them.
No, like, I don't think the railguns would be going it. Yeah.
I actually think Rosenfeld would do a better job than him, probably.
Right. Although if they killed him, they would probably kill her too.
If they destroyed the ship, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But maybe someone with less of an ego would do a better job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it would be better, but I think it's that same kind of like, which is the point that why Avasarala asked. It's like, do you honestly think that the odds are in our favors? And the general would be like, well, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, but I got the impression that she doesn't even think they could kill Marco. That the chances of them killing him before he reached Medina were low.
Sure.
Because all their ships were spread thin and they couldn't get together a big enough fleet in time to stop him.
Yeah, it would be taking a huge gamble for potentially low payoff. Yeah. Because even if you did kill Marco, it doesn't end everything. And the railguns are still there. So it was a huge gamble to even think that you could even kill him. You probably wouldn't.
And as Avasarala mentioned, they would leave the people on Sirius to die of starvation, just abandon it.
Until
yeah. Well,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in its time.
Okay, so but before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about the man, the legend, Marco Inaros. So there was I actually didn't notice this until the second time I watched it. The scene started with him watching a news feed where it said that the people of Iapetus had expelled the Free Navy from their station, sort of. So they like uprised and kicked Marco's forces out and became an independent force. And it's implied, heavily implied, is because of Drummer's speech that inspired them to do so. And it really emphasizes the power of Drummer at the moment, just as a symbolic figure, political figure, to change the tide of opinion of Belters, which is why I think Avasarala instantly recognized that she really needs to make an alliance with her. But it's interesting that Marco was, of course, really upset and pissed off at it. And this is the one part I think maybe Rosenfeld's a bit wrong, because she was kind of really dismissive of it. And it's like, oh, so she attacked a defenseless depot in the middle of nowhere. Who cares? Does you think that makes her a hero? Like, but I think that's being a little bit naive. But I think maybe she's just trying to make Marco feel better and keep his eye where it needs to be, because she is right that dwelling on it's not going to do any good, that they need to focus on what they can control. And that's getting to Medina, of course, so they can enact this everlasting strategic plan. Um, yeah, so I don't know, Alyssa, did you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. I actually thought that the way that I read it was that she was just doing that to make him feel better and keep his eye on the ball. I don't know that it was necessarily naive. I don't know if she really believes that or not. But she did want Marco to not get distracted by that, because in the grand scheme of things, it actually doesn't matter if he keeps his eye on the ball. So yeah, I just think she was just trying to keep him focused. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I think Rosenfeld's doing the job that kind of they've shown all season that really she's made for. She's made to be that perfect XO. Her job is to keep the captain, to keep the leader, to keep Marco focused on the right thing. Is she smarter? Yes. I think she does have a better, calmer view of how to deal with things, and Marco is still caught up in the Marco show. I mean, he does have no certain things. Obviously, he knew about the railguns more, believed in them more than Rosenfeld did. You can see by that interaction and so and all of that. But I think, in a way, even where she kind of later on holds on the Philip shot where, oh, he's already down. It's like, okay, well, now I've got this Philip video I can throw up at him to boost his ego back up and pump him. It's like, okay, man, see, you're doing a good job. See, even your son is after it. See, I wonder where he gets it from. Yeah, she's doing, I think, her right job of keeping everyone focused, which I think you're right, would make her a much more potentially dangerous foe if she ended up being, the one running Medina Station with all of the railguns. Though it's also, I think, very clear from this point that it's like, well, forget the belt, man. We're just taking over the rest of the world here. We're just going to be in charge of them all.
Well, that's kind of like a means to the end in order to control the belt and the Sol system.
Yeah, but Marco doesn't care about anybody else. He will easily reshift his focus.
He cares about being like the leader, being like an emperor commander type. Yeah. Feeding his ego. Just in the chat, I want to jump in. Brandon saying, I'm glad there was less Marco in this episode. Anyone else? Anyone else glad? I don't mind Marco, but
well, I answered Brandon in the chat. Yes, especially since we know we're going to get a ton of Marco next week because it's the finale. So, but that's okay because I'm looking forward to him going down. He better be going down next week. He better be going down.
Airlock, railgun, betrayal. What would be more delicious? Sorry.
So, also wanted to point out in the chat, the space people, Iapidus, the 17th moon of Saturn, looks like the Death Star with its equatorial ridge and giant single crater on its northern hemisphere. Yeah, I think I remember seeing pictures of that. But anywho, yeah, it was. I do like the little call outs to, and I envy this. It makes sense like that. That would be the one that sort of rebels because it has Marcus as an insignificant station. It's like in Saturn, so a bit away from most of the the belt and other stations, a bit more remote. But anywho, speaking of Philip, let's talk about his. Did we think this was effective payoff for all the boring scenes we got last week? Because I kind of think maybe it was, because Philip is. I think this is going to be really change his mind, seeing the reaction of his friend. It's really interesting the way that when the friend wasn't there for the repair duty, he immediately went to the brig and was like, "Where are you? What's going on?" And he even risked his own standing, and which is already in bad standing, to find out what happened to his brother, but then reports that he was killed in the bomb, and then the guy admits that he's the one who set the bomb. And so I think it may make Philip completely doubt what he's doing, and doubt his faith in Marco, which is interesting because at the same time Rosenfeld is showing Marco the video of his reaction of saying, "Oh, look at how much he supports you," but I think he's actually going the other way now. Yeah. So did we think this payoff is worth it? Darrin, I guess to start with you.
I mean, yes, but it's one of those. It's actually that it is on first thought, but any reflexive thought actually kind of undermines itself. And this was the one scene that afterwards I started going, "Hey, wait a minute," because we have our Belcher friend who has been so worried about his brother being on series, and sorry, I'm about to lose some power here in a minute. Who's really worried about his brother and what's happened to him, and is he okay? And the fact that he is responsible for his death gives us that strong emotional hit, and I think it's what pushes Philip. On the other hand, dude, you set the bomb? Then didn't you warn your brother? It's something that afterwards, him now suddenly revealing that this is a big thing serves the Philip point, but it makes no sense for the character. This would have been part. Why are you worried about it? Well, those bombs on Sirius, I sent one of them, and I'm worried he might have gotten caught in. I didn't have a chance to warn him or anything. It's the way the reveal done, in a logic sense, doesn't make sense that now he would suddenly feel bad. Oh, I set the bombs. It tells us that Marco was responsible for it. But it's also just kind of one of those like, well, then you should have said this earlier. It just seemed weird to me.
Well, I would say it makes sense to me because I think it's more of he didn't want to admit this to Philip rather than just slipping his mind, something he was feeling really guilty about. It wasn't told actually happened that he was willing to admit it, that he was the one that helped set the bomb. And plus, like, I think he was like surprised that Belters died in the blast because he's like, yeah, I was told to only kill Erters, and that kind of reinforces that to Philip that what Marco did was not so good.
Sure. I mean, yeah, again, it sort of works. It's just one of those where afterwards that I was like, wouldn't you have warned your brother? Like, just don't go near the docks, dude.
Well, he couldn't communicate with them, though, right?
Well, he was there to set the bomb, so he was on series at the time.
Right.
Before they left. So it was just one of those where afterwards I was like, I know that you feel bad and I get all this, but wouldn't have you given your brother a heads up? I mean, I don't remember. Was he a dock worker? Do you remember what his brother did on series?
No, I don't think he was a dock worker.
Okay.
I can't remember that for sure, though.
They probably weren't allowed to go around telling people that they planted bombs in the bomb.
Yes, and I think that he was convinced, he was told that it would only kill.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And I mean, I get that, and it does serve it. It was just one of those where I was rewatching it going, hey, wait a minute. This seems weird now. Again, but that's, again, it's my only little criticism on this. Otherwise, I think it's effective, and I do think this is, again, we get that last shot of Philip's face of, which is his obvious, I think I'm changing my mind look.
Yeah, definitely. Anywho, sorry, it's just Brandon's asked me to turn up my volume. It's too complicated to do that right now. I'll just try to speak louder, I guess. Also, I saw a couple other interesting things in the chat. Oh, yes, Alex saying the next episode will end with Marco and the Free Navy victorious and our favorite characters dead. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. Anyway, yeah, so let's go ahead and move over to Holden and his whole situation here. So we get a scene with him first talking to Clarissa about upgrading the shield or the hull, whatever. Not shields, this isn't Star Trek, but upgrading the hull with like protomolecule technology. And Clarissa saying that it makes it feel like her father was right whenever they use protomolecule technology to benefit themselves. And at first, I got the impression, wow, I thought Holden would have a more strong reaction to that. But I feel like Clarissa was saying that in a very negative way. Like she hates the fact that it's sort of making her father right because she doesn't want her father to be right. And the X-ray last week, which I forgot to talk about last week, it was revealed Clarissa watched the news feed that her father died. So she just found out that her father was dead as well, which does add a little tinge to this scene. Yeah, any thoughts on this real quick before we move on?
No, I totally got that it was one of those conflicted things with her because she was upset like, hey, we're using this to help save lives, which is what my dad said this was going to be used for, and he did horrible things to justify it. I don't want him to be, I don't want him to be right about all this. So no, it was I thought it was pretty effective. And I think, I think Holden's reaction is just like, he's been through it all for so many times. Like, yeah, this is just the way shit goes. Watch your step.
I think Holden knows that with the whole protomolecule thing, it's a lot more complicated than that. Even if they are being helped by it in the short run, there's still going to potentially be a lot more detriment to them from the protomolecule. So I just think he didn't really have time. He's like, whatever. Like, I don't think he didn't have the energy to go into it at that moment. So he's just like, okay, whatever, yeah. And just he changed the subject. I think he didn't even really talk about it.
No, that's what you asked about Amos.
Sorry, I was just reading a chat picking on me for saying hull plating. I don't know, whatever the hell it was, the whole upgrades, whatever. Anyway, yeah, saying that's an Enterprise reference.
Yeah, that was what they had on the Star Trek Enterprise instead of shields. Was the whole plating, but it was something. It was something similar.
Polarize the whole plating.
It was whole something. Whatever.
Punched through the freaking hole.
Yeah, whatever.
It's our early science doodad before we had our more advanced science doodad.
So, then we get the Holden talking to LV, which was pretty interesting. LV was revealing they did mention, like he did mention, I know someone who will be able to figure this ring thing out. And I was like, who's he talking about? And then it's like, not LV, right? But it was LV Okoye from season 4, which as far as I know, she's on Ellis. So how she's able to send a message to the ring space if Marco controls is a bit iffy to me, but whatever. It was good to get
but it's just they did a secret thing with a secret thing. Whatever. It's I don't need to get hung up on it. And she
Naomi knows codes, okay? Yeah. Naomi knows codes.
Yeah, it's not. I don't get really hung up on that. It's whatever.
Yeah. I'm not really hung up on it either. Yeah. It's just like weird, but whatever. Yeah, I'll just go with it because it's great getting a cameo from her.
Yeah, it's our past SEMA season cameos. We've got those throughout.
all the previous
Well,
characters.
if it really is the final season, you gotta slip in those other characters from other seasons.
Exactly. So anyway, she kind of figures out what's going on that has to do with sort of the ring gates overloading, and this is going to be a problem going forward. And this freaks Holden out a lot, and is saying that this is going to be a huge issue. Naomi brings up the fact that he talked about how every time he goes to the ring gates, it makes him feel like the aliens are getting angrier, and wondering if it's related to that. And then he goes to Alvis Morales saying, "Hey, we need to worry about this." She's like, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll worry about this. Hey, do you know about Drummer?" It's like, "Oh, so that's why you saw me so quick." But I do like, and I said this in my review too, is like I usually when people call Holden naive or stupid or innocent or whatever, dumb, I usually disagree with them. I usually think Holden's right in this case. He's absolutely naive to say, "Oh, let's share this information with Marco." Like he's actually going to do anything about it. I think that's the dumbest thing he ever said. So I think Avisarella's response to him is so correct. And she like pointed out the railguns. She's like, "No, this is what we have to worry about right now. These fucking railguns that are blowing up our ships. We can worry about the angry aliens later."
Yeah, it was so dumb for Holden to do that I feel like it was out of character for him. Like I don't know that he's that dumb. Is he really that naive? Like I never thought he was before.
I'll tell you why I could buy it though. That he's always been hung up and afraid of proto-molecule alien stuff. Like he's been traumatized. He has PTSD for his experience on God, what the fuck was the name of that station now? Errors, yeah. His experience on that is kind of traumatized. So it always blinds him to everything else. So I do kind of buy that he would be this naive.
Well, and even though I intimated that, if it all ends with Marcos just disappearing through the ring and like, oh, that's how we wrap it up. On the other hand, this would be a partial foreshadowing. I was like, look, if people might randomly get lost in the ring, why would we tell Marcos? If he just randomly gets lost through a ring, that would be a good win for us, Just let him roll that dice. Hey, go back and forth, man. Go get some milk. Come on back. Okay. Oh, no. Go for one more errand. We need to get some stuff.
Point.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, Alex says in the chat, Holden was seeing the bigger picture and threat, and I don't disagree with that. But he was naive to think Marco would ever, in a million years, go along with them.
Oh, Dad, you are right. We should watch out. You and me will have drinks and talk about that. Bring Naomi.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, exactly.
That's my horrible Marcos impression. Okay.
But it's more of a con thing.
It was a con thing when he did that a couple of weeks ago. James Holden.
Yeah, especially the James thing. James Kerr. Also, Alex also points out in the chat that LV's screen showed that she was on Europa. I did not catch that. Why was she on Europa? She was supposed to be in Illis, but anyway. But that does make sense then. There we go.
Well, she was just doing a run, and then the whole war broke out. She's been trapped ever since. I don't know.
So I think someone in the chat asked earlier, I can't remember, but someone asked earlier about the X-ray with Holden. And Alyssa, I know, said before we went on the air that she hadn't seen it, but I do want to talk about it real quick because it was kind of, I can see why this was a bonus feature and not in the episode itself, because it was a kind of, oh, remember that guy? Oh, remember that guy? Remember this guy? But it was also interesting the contrast between Holden, the way he is now, and the way he was 10 years ago when he first joined the Canterbury. He reminded me more of Amos. He didn't give a shit about anything. He was like just carefree, drinking and didn't want a job, and the captain had to like say, "Hey, you get pay all these benefits, free room and board, and no responsibility." It's like, okay, and it is interesting that that's how he sold the job for him. But then we got cameos from that I recognized, the Belter guy who's in the first episode of the show, the pilot episode we saw in the premiere of this episode, and then we also got the Belter who threw Praxis Friend out the airlock, and he's the one that kind of smashes the Canterbury captain's guy, like says Saran cats, whatever. He's known for always having these Saran cats in his quarters. So they're all like callbacks to the first season, which is again is something nice to have at the end of the the final season, the penultimate episode. But ultimately, not completely necessary. But I think it was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was a fun little bit. I did notice that the Belter who opens up this season with "Now Eartha know what it feel like to be Belter," from all the way back in season 1, looked much bigger. I think he was described as like Gaunt Belter or something like that when we first see him. He looked a little more buffed out. He was working out 10 years ago, more than he was now. But yeah, it was kind of a fun scene. It was sort of funny how Holden ends up getting the job on the Canterbury. Hey, would you like to get paid well and not work? Okay, keep talking. But yeah, there wasn't really anything else, I think, really to this scene outside of, wow, they would shoot this afterwards. So after the whole beard thing, so that he could shave and look all young and.
Yeah, I wonder if that's all they did. Did they just shave his beard to make him look so young, or did they actually do some like Marvel CGI stuff?
I would doubt they did much. I mean, it's only been 6 years since season 1, 7 years. So
yeah, 7 years, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, and he definitely looked super skinny that he has this season, I think, versus that he had in the first season. So it was definitely just, I think he shaved, they put some makeup on him so to clear the lines, but I don't think he's that much older that it's not that big of a shift for him.
All right. So speaking of bars, let's talk about Bobby and Amos. And God, I fucking love this scene so much. I think we were just mentioning earlier whether or not Bobby was with Amos. I hope they said that she was. That'd be kind of interesting. Not that they have get a thing going on, but just that they just had a fling. I don't know. It seems fitting to their characters, but I do like. It was an interesting, of course, character moment for Amos. The fact that he was thinking of not going back to the Resonate because he's just so upset with Holden for not killing Marco and saying, well, why the fuck we're out here. And something happened which I didn't think would happen. Bobby actually finds out about that Holden disarmed the torpedo, and she was just laughing maniacally at that. And I don't think she's gonna do any reprisals for Holden. I think she's kind of beyond that now. But I do love the speech, of course, which is why I put it in my name, that Bobby gives to Amos here about what's really. It doesn't really matter if they're good or evil men in war. What only matters is those who watch your flank and supporting them. That's a very bad paraphrase of it, but it's a good speech. Anyway, Alyssa, we'll start with you on this one. What did you think of the Bobby and Amos stuff?
Loved it. I love these characters together this season. It's been way too long. I'm glad that we finally get some scenes with these two. And yeah, it was a great speech by Bobby. And I love how she ends it with, so going back to the ship, huh? And he's like, yeah, after I gotta go to the brothel. But yeah, so I absolutely love this exchange between them. It's one of the, just as I mentioned in the top, just all of the character interactions all throughout this episode were just magnificent. And this was one of my favorite ones. And for the record, I think whether they tell us or not, she totally went with Amos because it was her idea. He never mentioned anything about that. She's the one who brought it up, which means she was thinking about it. And I think Amos gave her permission to do that. So I think it totally happened. Whether we get confirmation on it or not next week. I hope we do, though. but and I think you're right. They don't have to be like we don't have to be shipping them. They're not Bamos or anything. I think they would they could just hook up once, and that would be fine.
Soldiers on shore leave before the big battle and death. I love the fact that they ended the scene with just her sitting and kind of contemplating, so it could let us sort of play with the ideas. But yes, I completely agree, Alyssa. I think that she totally went with it. It just ended up being a big, we may all die tomorrow bash, and let's just enjoy tonight. Love the emotion of the scene. I mean, I always love Amos. I love what Wes Chatham brings to the character. I love the questioning and the fact that he throws it out and that Bobby does lose it, like contemplates. Oh, of course. Yeah, it just starts laughing. And the reality, I think what caught me is that Amos mentions it's because Holden saw Philip, which isn't something that Holden said. And I don't think he mentioned it to anyone else why except for Naomi. So unless he sort of sourced it out or there got to be some more talk around the ship, I thought that was perfect. And maybe that's why Bobby has the reaction he does. Is like, well, yeah, because he's fighting for Naomi and he's fighting for you. And he can't kill Naomi's kid in the middle of a fight. Of course. Maybe the laugh was like, of course. Duh, what? Of course you can't do that. That makes sense. So, yeah, let's just get back into it and hope we don't deal with it again. So it was nice how it kind of really undercut Amos's concern in an unexpected way. That she would be the one to kind of laugh and just be like, don't worry about it, man. This is the people that you're here for. What else is there in life? I thought it was a beautiful kind of wrap up. And shows the connection between the two characters, which is, again, why it seems like she went with him to the brothel. They'll both have fun together.
Space People says Bobby Amos Clarissa 3-way sounds like fun until Clarissa activates her implants.
Then it's really fun.
Then it's really fun, yeah. Exactly.
I don't know. I don't think that's really Clarissa's speed.
She doesn't seem like the threesome type of person there.
Yeah.
And Brandon says that I can write the Bobby and Adams fan fiction. No. I just leave it up to imagination. I'm not going to write that. It's got to be left to imagination, unless they tell us next week. But otherwise,
no, they'll just have like maybe a grin or laugh or kind of some small little. Just that's all they really need. Just the tedious little like.
Yeah.
Like, you're busy last night. You're tired. Get enough sleep. Just something tiny, I think, would be perfect.
I've just been loving the chemistry between these two characters.
Yeah. It's the best part of the really weird Alex death that they did last year is that it now allows a chance for someone else to hang out with Bobby. And Amos and Bobby is just, it's been too long for this to happen. I'm so glad it finally happened.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and move over to the big one, Camina Drummer. So it starts off with her showing up with all the food and supplies for Ceres, and I do love the interchange between the Yunin captain, whatever. He's like, I'm gonna come and board your ship. I don't care if you're delivering. He's like, but I got free food. I'm just delivering supplies. He's like, I don't care. You're gonna have to submit to us. You're gonna have to. And of course, he's talking about anyone with outstanding warrants going to be arrested. So that means Walker. Bye bye. I'm sure he's got outstanding warrants. He would be arrested. So and people who work their asses off who are actually supporting the belt. But I love how Avasrella just interrupts him and like, no, if you're sure, you can come. Your ships are sovereign space. You got all we're not going to bother you at all. It makes me feel like, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that Captain Guy was being a moron by doing that, but I guess it makes military sense that if in the situation where you have a lot of insurgents and terrorists who insert themselves into civilian populations, and Marco's known for using civilians as shields, and so it makes sense to be a bit cautious on that. And I wonder if the only reason Avasarala interrupted is because she was so, so eager to make an alliance with Drummer, that if she had not been, maybe she wouldn't have interrupted and let the UNNs be assholes to her. And were they justified?
Well, I absolutely think that she did that because she wanted to Drummer to help her. If she didn't need Drummer, I don't know that she would have interrupted. Like, why would she have? Like, I don't think she cares. I think she had other things to do. But the fact that she so desperately needs Drummer, like Drummer is really her last hope to defeat Marco. So absolutely, I don't think she would have done it without that. And I also have to say that this exchange between the two of them, it just dawned on me when they introduced each other and like, oh, Fred Johnson has spoken highly of you. Oh, Fred Johnson spoke highly of you too. That I was like, oh my God, 6 seasons. These two characters have never crossed paths before. The two of my favorite characters, and it makes sense that they haven't. But it just like dawned on me. I was like, wow, in this Expanse universe, there's two of my favorite characters finally crossing paths for the very first time toward the end of season 6, which was just fantastic.
Well, there's an interesting thing about that because I was watching the podcast and they were interviewing the actresses who played Avasarala and Drummer, and they talked about how they met them when the actors met each other. They're like, "Oh, it would be great to have a scene together. We'd love to have a scene," and it took them like 4 years before they could actually have a scene together. But the writer, one of the producers and writer of the novels, Ty Frank, was there, and he mentioned that he said like they needed that to go through these journeys before they could meet, because he said if Drummer had met Avasarala earlier, she probably would have just killed her. He probably would have just shot her, and she needed to go through this character journey to lead up to get to this point.
Well, I think that in a way explains that first scene really strongly, because yes, Avasarala needs Drummer and wants to work with her, needs a Belter on her side, and she sees that, and she sees what Drummer represents. But I think even more so, or at least equally so, this is Avasarala showing, as she does throughout this episode, how much she has changed. I think the old captain is kind of representative of who Avasarala was, the old Earther viewpoint. And we've sort of seen that conflicting both with Monica's scenes through this season, what was happening on the docks and stuff, that there has been this shift of the old guard, the old conservative, screw the Belters, Earth number one, and the new one that's realizing like, hey, we're all people and we need to kind of work together. And I think this was sort of a perfect of Drummer's little arc through this episode as well, of being the, look, I have this stuff and I can't even give it to you, to suddenly, because of who she is, what she stood for, who she has become, now things are starting to come to her and she doesn't have to fight as much. And almost that is as confusing to her as the fight. Because and we see this throughout several of her scenes, once she is getting stuff offered to her, once it's not as much of a fight, she doesn't entirely know how to deal with that. I'm so used to fighting. How do I just accept this? I'm expecting there has to be something that's there. There has to be a trick. There has to be a catch of some sort. So I love how this progressed from this interaction between the two all the way up to the end. How Drummer and Avasarala were kind of interacting back and forth. I think Avasarala is appreciative of the help. I think this helps the series, the people on series. This helps the Belters. This relieves a lot of pressure off. Why are you standing in her way? Take your stuff. Show appreciation. And maybe by showing appreciation, maybe we can also start to work together. So I think it's all of these coming together right here.
Yes. That does make sense. I one thing I want to point out is I love Drummer's line here to Avasarala when she tells Avasarala, she's like, Marco was inevitable after a century of pressing the belt. Um, if it wasn't Marco, it would be someone else. Which I think is actually a really powerful statement. And I think
Yeah.
Avasarala a little dismissive of her. She's like, "Oh, that's an interesting perspective. Why don't we meet in person to talk about this more?"
Weak sauce. Those are really weak sauce.
Yeah,
response.
that was a weak sauce response by far.
Yeah, and she lost it. She may have gotten Drummer before that, but like that was the end of. There was no way Drummer was coming to see her at that point. Like, yeah, that was not a good response to that.
But you also talked about Avasarala's character journey. I love how this is why it almost feels like a complete character journey for her, because I love how she brings up, again, another callback to the pilot episode, brings up how she was torturing the Belter using Earth's gravity, and how she all she cared about was Earth first, and she realized, she's like, I have given the Belters reason to hate me. Like, the Belters are justified in hating me, but I've changed now, and so how do I turn that around? And I feel like that feeling actually came through with their final conversation with Drummer, which we'll get to later. But I feel like that feeling that she has become a totally different person now, but now she has to prove it.
And Mark, you actually made a good point in your review that I didn't think of, is that she had to even pretend that she was still that way, still really hardcore against the belt, even when she wasn't anymore, because she was putting on a show for Aaron Wright. So even when she had already, kind of starting, to see things differently, she still had to put on that face. So in the Belters' minds, I mean, that was very, very recently that she was still behaving that way. So they have every reason to not trust her.
Yep. Darrin, any more thoughts on that?
No, I think that pretty much hits it perfectly. As again, I like the arc. I like how we get to see how people have changed and where they've come, and how they get to the next points. And you're right. Without all of the differences happening for the journeys for each of these characters, we don't get the good payoff that we get now finally with them coming together, because now it's like it's on.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Drummer and her departing with her family. The last two members of her family, Joseph and Michio, staying behind because apparently Joseph's replacement arm isn't going to work out. It didn't work, and his arm's going to be it's going to be impossible to get another one. So he's going to have a prosthetic. I'm saying that wrong. Whatever.
Prosthetic.
Yeah, prosthetic. Yes, thank you. And I'm thinking this is going to be like a Winter Soldier arm, like a badass, like mechanical arm. But anyway, he has to go through a lot of surgeries and pain and stuff. And so Michio says she's just going to stay with him on series and look after him. And it was a very sad parting for me, especially the way Drummer was like, I never loved you because we were fighters. I loved you because it was your builders. Like that was really touching, and that was like her giving up the last of her family. And we do see in her scene with Naomi, which we will get to later, that that this really affected her, and that she's feeling really depressed over this, and that she's blaming herself for them leaving, which I don't think is actually correct for her to blame herself, at least not as far as Joseph and Michio goes.
Yeah, I think she was taking it way too hard, especially the line she said to Naomi later. Joseph couldn't go. Like he's gonna have to go through all the surgery and replace his arm. He physically can't go with her, and of course Michu's gonna stay with him and be there with him. So I don't know why Drummer was making a big deal. I guess because they're the last of the family, and now her whole family's gone. So I guess that's why. But I definitely think she was being a little bit hard on herself over it. I mean, I think it makes total sense that they would stay behind.
Well, Yeah, and oddly, see, I kind of saw that as in a way Michio dismissing Drummer. I mean, yes, there was the X-ray that we see ages ago, which I think sort of plays into it. Is I think Drummer has always loved Naomi, and when they split, Drummer created a family to try and replace that. And I think Michio knows that and sees that, which is why when she's like, I didn't love you for being fighters. I saw you as builders. I wanted us to build something together. She wanted to build a family. She wanted to be part of this. And not that she didn't love or care for these, but I think they were a replacement for Naomi, even as a group. And so as she has lost them over time, and then we get to our scene with Naomi later, I think that is the rawness and loss. And I saw Michiu in a way as kind of like almost that acknowledgement, like, it's okay, you can go. We're good. We're fine. You've got your own focus. You're going to be going after Marcos. You really love somebody else anyway. We're fine. You can go. So in a way, I didn't see, I mean, it was nice, and there was definitely concern and love there, but even Drummer's response towards Joseph, when he was blaming himself, she wasn't saying it wasn't your fault or you saved my life. She was very kind of cold and separated. And I kind of saw that this was like the last, I don't know, damaged arm that had to go and be gone in order for Drummer to move on. In a way, I think there's a lot of symbolism you can play in on this with this scene.
Yeah, I do see that. I think there's like less. There was less. There was like no animosity that Michio
No,
had towards Drummer.
no, I didn't see it as animosity in any
Yeah.
way. Just an acknowledgement of like, look, this is a done thing. Let's just let it go.
Yes, definitely. Definitely had that thing. But I think it even like I think Drummer was definitely too hard on herself later when she says, "Oh, they left me because they're sick of me making decisions that ruin their lives or something." I think that was being too hard. I think Michi was just being realistic, like that Joseph is in no condition to keep fighting, and that he needs someone to care for him to stand by his side, and that she should do it, and that Drummer wouldn't be happy doing that. She's absolutely right. The Drummer needs to go out and fight Marco. And I think mainly it had to do with that more than a love for Naomi. But I don't know. I could be
Well,
wrong.
unless she was blaming herself for making the choices of sacrificing her family for Naomi, I think, which is another layer that was playing in a little bit there.
I don't know if Michio felt that way because
No,
Michio
I don't think
was,
Michio.
yeah.
I think Drummer
Oh yes,
acknowledges
yeah,
that,
definitely, yeah.
which is what makes that whole next scene so freaking good.
Yeah, Alyssa, do you have any more thoughts on this one?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. All right, so let's talk about the big scene with Naomi and Drummer, which I fucking love the scene. Like I said, I watched this like scene like 3 times, and it made me cry each and every time. It was just such a powerful scene. Like I love how yeah, Naomi shows up really nonchalant. It's like, hey, how's it going? Hey, I haven't seen you. Let's talk. Let's hang out. And I like when Drummer finally gets to the point. It's like, you know me well enough to know that if I don't respond, that means I don't want to see you. So why are you here? And she just comes right out and say, well, Holden asked me to talk to you because Avasarala wants to make an alliance, and how like that raw anger that comes out of it. Um, and that she feels like she's putting, I think again, Drummer, as we said, she's being too hard on herself in the scene, and she's saying, oh, I'm gonna have to put a leash collar on and hand the leash to Earth, which I think is an over exaggeration of what an alliance with Australia is going to be like. But of course, that is a legitimate concern, especially given the belt's prior history and relationship with Earth, that it couldn't just be that. But then, of course, Naomi comes out with this the amazing line at that, you know, when Drummer says she didn't know what else to do, she's like, well, I guess all we can do is, you know, fight and support those that we love. And Drummer's response of like "fuck you, you self-righteous shit," like that was such that's like one of the emotional high points of the show for me, because I really got that. And I think knowing that there's this unrequited love situation between Drummer and Amy made that scene so much more powerful. That was kind of her admitting, like, you know that I love you. You know I'm always gonna love you. You know that's always gonna happen. And fuck you for that. Fuck you for always making me love you. It was just such a powerful moment. Alyssa, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it seems to be an ongoing theme in this episode. It reminds me of what Bobby said earlier. The whole, what matters is the one who will watch your flank, and then Naomi comes back with what is important as being with those you love, taking care of those you love, and so it's been a theme, and it's what really makes this a great penultimate episode is that we're wrapping things up and we're visiting, what is important to these characters is the love and support for each other. So it was so good throughout this episode. But as for that particular scene, I admit I only watched it once, but tears streaming down my face. I was like, as I was watching it, I was just, this is so good. This is so good. Like, one of the best scenes of the series. I mean, or at least of the season. I honestly haven't rewatched all of the series yet, so I can't rank every scene, but definitely an incredibly emotional scene. I should go back and watch that again, actually. But it is, yeah. But yeah. But Naomi, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I finished watching the episode, I immediately went back to this scene, just watched the scene again immediately.
Yeah. This scene and the scene we'll talk about in a minute were also, there were scenes I was like, yes. But but before that, Naomi was a little bit slimy. Like, oh, hey, what's up? Oh, hi. I just want to be friends and hang out. And so what, did she really think she was going to kind of just ever slip that in there? Oh, by the way, so what do you think about, I mean, did she think she was ever going to get that in there without pissing Drummer off? Like, Drummer is too smart for that. She should know better than that. So I did like how Drummer pointed out, you know me well enough to know that if I don't respond, I don't want to talk to you. She also should have known Drummer well enough to know that she's not going to get away with it. Just going, hey, let's be buddies. Hey, what's up? Oh, by the way, Sorella would love for you to join her. Like that was never going to go over well.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting about that is Naomi's, like, this seems like this was a huge character, like, sort of resolution for her, because all season she's been depressed about fighting Belters and feeling unsure. And it seems like she, in trying to gain Drummer support, she actually, like, sort of helped sort of resolve her own issues and herself. And when she came to the conclusion of, that she makes her own way, that she's not on Earth's side or whatever, that she makes her own side. And so I thought it was a great scene for her as well.
Yeah, the tension from the get-go between the two characters was perfect. And again, hats off to Kara G for pulling this off again from beginning to end. Just, you could see her uncomfortableness, just trying to deal, but then being polite, and the frustration. And again, I think there's a lot of that unrequited love and her feeling so alone, like, I gave up everything and now I've lost everything else that I have. There's nowhere for me to be. Earth doesn't want me. I can't keep going after the belt. I've lost my family. I'm all alone on the bridge of my ship. Even Ashton is dead, or, is dead. So I in some ways we've seen all of the loss and cost for both of the characters, though I think we're kind of focused more on Drummer on this. I think it really, not only is she so strong, but she is so vulnerable within this same scene, ending up just kind of collapsing and crying on Naomi. The fact that Naomi uses the same words in a way that Bobby does with Amos, that it's about fighting for the people that got our back. It's about fighting for the people we love. It's about fighting for our family. It's the same type of idea, that pulls Drummer in. I think was kind of a beautiful little payback, and that there's an acknowledgement of love, whether it can be requited or unrequited. And she's like, especially you think we've lost? I have nothing. You at least have Holden. Yep, that bastard.
Yeah.
And now you're here on his behalf asking something from me. It's one of those scenes that only pay off because we've had so much time with these characters. I think as they can layer all of these different things all at once. So there's such payoff for it. It was just magnificent.
Like something, I think I mentioned this before, I think it bears mentioning again, is that I heard that the Ty Frank writer of the show was saying that the writers didn't come up with the sort of romance between Drummer and Naomi, that was born out of the acting. That they saw the chemistry between the actors, and I think you see that there. Like these two are just so good together.
Oh yeah, they totally. That is exactly what the energy that you feel off of it. So it's nice when the writers and makers can recognize that and go, great, let's use that. That's when storytelling really starts getting to those next higher levels.
All right, so let's go ahead and get to this final scene with Avasarala and Drummer. This amazing scene. I kind of get the impression that Drummer had kind of already decided that she would make an alliance with Avasarala, but she wanted it to be on her terms, and that's why she had the meeting in public, because she wanted to make a public showing. She wanted to make it clear that she was not going to be Earth's pet, that she wasn't going to just let them dictate everything. That would have to be a mutual thing. So it was kind of, I think she wouldn't have made the alliance if Avasarala didn't agree to her terms. So Avasarala came up and tried to throw her weight around, like, no, you stupid belter, you do what I say, then nothing definitely would have happened. But Avasarala was smarter than that. And I think she knew that Avasarala, because she could tell how eager Avasarala is. Like, oh, please make an alliance with me. So I think she would, and part of it was to push her to see how far she would go. And because when Avasarala shows up in such a public space, she's like, I didn't think you'd actually show. And so I think she was actually impressed by that. But all the other stuff about, the Earth littering the belt, but I think most of that was for show, but it's necessary. I think because she doesn't want to lose. I think it's a real fear that she'll lose some support from the belt if she is seen as weak or another sort of pet of Earth. So I think they're both really smart politicians, and just an amazing scene. Anyway, Alyssa, your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I think she was very smart to do that too. I think she realized that if she really wants to defeat Marco, she's gonna need Avasarala's help too. She had mentioned before, what's gonna happen, and Marco eventually the bounty will be too high on my head, and Marco will just get me, or I'll just be the Earther's pet or whatever. And I think she did the best that she could with the decision she had, and she, had to, make sure she got it on her terms. Well, I'm not going to follow your orders. We're not going to follow your orders. Oh, I wouldn't expect you to. So, I think that was the best that she could get out of that, and I think she knew that. But it was a great scene. And when they, I was like, just when they shook hands at the end, it was just like. And then the credits go up immediately. It was just so electric. I thought, I don't know if I should bring this up. I had a very silly analogy. I thought of the thing that came to my mind, and I don't know if you remember this, Mark, but we used to watch WWF wrestling in the 1980s.
Yes, I
do you know what I'm talking about? There was Macho Man, Randy Savage, and Hulk Hogan. They were like enemies, and they always fought against each other. But then for some reason, they joined forces at one point so they could fight against some other wrestler who was a common enemy or whatever. And when they first shook hands, like they pulled their hand back like this. Shake hands. And every time they would do an interview together, they would recreate that. Like, that's a silly thing to think of, but it is what I thought of after that scene. But in a very positive way. It was so electric, and it just got me really pumped up. As I think that the shaking hands between those two wrestlers was supposed to do, but it was very, very silly. But this was legitimately something that got me like just electrified and ready for next week.
Oh yeah, by far. It was and it was great because I think Avasarala even mentions it the beginning as there's not a lot of people recognize the importance of a show or demonstration or something like that when Drummer says, I didn't think that you would show up. So I think Avasarala acknowledges that this is for show. It is important. It is a thing, but it is out. She is coming out of her ship, of her protected station onto Ceres into the midst of the Belters to make a deal. And Avasarala wants everyone to see that she can make her demands and not bend and get that approval that she's not doing it also, I think, behind closed doors, out of people's sights. I mean, even having Monica there, we didn't see her filming everything, but she's got her eye thing. So I think she films everything that she looks at. This is something that is intended to be a public display of connection for not only just to let the belt know that Drummer is doing this on her own terms and not to seem like she's caving knee, but I think also from Avasarala's standpoint is to make her promises well known in public. The only thing that I thought was kind of missing was Drummer, demanding independence for the belt when this is all done. Though I think after the last shot, are you going to keep your word? Are you going to remember us? I think is as close as what she could have gotten there. But that was the next thing. The only thing that I thought was going to happen was and when this is all done, the belt's independent and we will find a way to live together or something like that was the only thing that I thought could have gone next. But that's just me, I thought it was awesome. And you're right. The ending it on that handshake was just beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely amazing moment. And as I talked about before, I think this was well earned. This was a great way to build excitement, and this was something that they couldn't have done earlier, because it does really show Elvis journey. But I think that she's right to make an alliance with Drummer on the strategic side as well, because I think she did. This is like her third option, other than send everything we got to stop Marco, and it might not work anyway. Better to make an alliance with Drummer, and I think that's why she saw that. She saw this was her way out, and this was the best way because it could take the forces away from Marco and get more support from the belt, which is a lot more important to her right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. In the chat, Brandon says when Monica said Owen is getting death threats, I wondered if Owen was the belter with the cat. Yeah, I think he was. That's the impression I got. That her piece, most people loved her piece, but then a few people were sending the belter with the cat death threats because, people were assholes. That does track everything. All right, so I think that's all we got on this episode now. It's an amazing episode. Yeah, I think we've pretty much covered. Unless anything else they want to add, check in there. Go ahead and end this discussion here.
No, I think that pretty much covers everything. Again, I think Alyssa's hit this a number of times. This is a great penultimate episode to really, kind of wrap up a little storylines, get those final areas pushed, and get us pumped for the end. I mean, again, with that handshake, we know that it's on. It's all going. It has to happen at the ring. That's where Marcos is going. It's time for the big showdown. The only sadness is that there's just one episode left.
Yeah, hopefully there will be. I'm optimistic that there will be something in the future, but um, I'm also optimistic that this next week's episode is going to be epic. And Mark, you in your review reassuring all of us non-book readers that that they do have enough time to cover it, and you do think that it's going to be pretty epic. That was very reassuring to me. But I would have thought it's going to be epic anyways. I really, really do. I really cannot wait for next week's episode.
Yeah, I got a comment of someone saying that they're disappointed that the protomolecule storyline is not going to be resolved, or the storyline with the angry aliens that killed the protomolecule creators isn't going to be resolved, or we're not going to learn more about what they're setting up on Laconia. But look, the storyline with Laconia is setting up for a adaptation of book 7, 8, and 9, so it's going to happen. And here's the thing: like, there are 3 more books to cover, so they can't wrap all this up. If they tried to wrap everything up in this one season, then we would be a Game of Thrones season 8 situation. And someone else asked if they feel like the ending of the show will be the same as the ending of the books, and the answer I would say is yeah, it will be the same as the way book 6 ended. which was a proper ending. It wraps up the whole Belter Marco war storyline, and pretty much it's a good character finish for all the characters as well. So I think even if we never get these next books covered, which we damn well better have to, it's still a good ending for our characters. So yeah, so I'm very optimistic about it.
Yeah, and if you want to be sure to see more, send your complaints and requests to Jeff Bezos, care of Amazon Prime Video. Yeah.
Yeah, so Alex in the chat says the Expanse IP is still valuable to Alcon Entertainment, so they'll do more with the series. I mean, as long as a network picks them up, I know they'll try.
Usually Netflix will give something 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
That's exactly what I thought too, actually.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead and end the discussion here. I want to thank everyone for joining, everyone in the chat. Brandon, Series-ish, Dina, we had Flobo, the Space People, and I believe a few other people dropped by. Thank you so much for your participation. Thanks for everyone checking this out, even if you didn't jump in the chat, and everyone, of course, watching this in archives. Thanks very much for checking it out. And yeah, be sure to join us. So next week, I will be joined once again by Darrin, and we're going to be joined by Rob as we talk about the final episode, the series finale. God, I feel so sad every time I say that. We're going to talk about the series finale, but wait, there's more. That's not all of it, because the week after the finale airs, I will be joined once again by Alyssa to get her thoughts on the finale. And big announcement, I'm going to be joined by at least Josh, possibly Anna from Geeksiders, which I haven't talked to them in a long time. And the first ever Expanse discussion I did was with them. So I think it's appropriate that we're ending with doing a discussion with them. And they're the ones that actually got me into the Expanse. Fun fact. So it will be great. So next week, Rob and Darrin will be joining me in the week after, Alyssa and Josh, possibly Anna, hopefully Anna as well. So so be sure to check out my channel for that, and of course check out these people, lovely people. Thanks for joining. I will start with Darrin, what you'll be up to and where people can find you.
Yes. Well, I'm of course going to be here next week talking about the Expanse finale, but you can always catch me over on my channel. That's D's Reviews, where I'm usually rotating between the major Marvel and Star Wars series Thursday nights at 6:00. We're doing Book of Boba Fett right now, which I really wish was even remotely as good as this show. I think the writers need to maybe watch some Expanse, get a little storyline idea. But yeah, if you would like to hear me rant against a show everyone else seems to like, Thursday night, 6 o'clock. You can catch us over
Wow.
on D's Reviews.
I didn't realize that was your opinion of the show.
Oh yeah, I turned on the three of them for a few minutes. I was like, wow, all three of them really hate this show. And you're the only three people I've heard who hate it. But
apparently we are. That's true. I think my name was Mirror Universe Darrin this last one. So I'm like, I am certain I am seeing a show no one else is. That's the only explanation I can come up with.
Yeah.
All right, and of course, Alyssa, where can people find you? What are you?
I am over at Alyssa Jean Reviews. I am covering Star Wars, Star Trek. Well, I'm not covering Boba Fett weekly, but I will cover the season-long review for it, and I'm doing MCU, Star Trek, fantasy, sci-fi type of stuff. I'm dropping new videos every Friday, so subscribe to check them out. Yesterday, I dropped a new video for 5 shows that I'm really excited for in 2022, and then 3 shows I'm not as excited for, but I'm going to end up watching anyway. And then I did another video for my 10 least favorite Star Trek Voyager episodes. Next Friday, I will be dropping my 20 favorite Star Trek Voyager episodes. Also, I'm going to start a monthly series where I'm going to watch 1 Star Trek film per month. I'm only going to do up the original 6, but 1 per month. So next week, I'll be dropping my review on the motion picture, which I just actually rewatched last night. And so... sorry, I fell asleep when I was thought about that.
So in 5 months from now, I'll be able to ask you the question: what does God need with a starship?
Yes, in May. When you think about it, it'll correspond. The number of the film will correspond with the number of the month. So May, the 5th month, will be May will be when you get to ask me, what does God need with a starship? And then April, I'll be watching Don Willie's favorite movie of all time.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to.
Don's allowed to be wrong about a couple things. It's one of them. We'll let you be wrong about that.
It's only a couple of things, though. It's only a couple of things.
Yeah.
We don't have him here talking about Bobby, though. That's the one thing we've
missed. Yeah, that's a shame. I would love to get his thoughts on Bobby and Amos. Is he jealous? Is he happy about that? I want to know.
I'm sure he's jealous. I'm sure.
I mean, is he like good for Amos, or is he just completely jealous? I don't know. Anyways, we're sidetracked. We're getting way sidetracked. Join me on Alyssa Jean Reviews to check out all of that content, and I hope to see you all really soon. And as Mark said, I will be back here in a couple weeks to talk about the entire season of The Expanse with Josh and possibly Anna. And I'm super excited to talk to those guys again too. It's been a long time.
All right, and if you're finding me for the first time, my name's Mark. My channel is Enchantment of Eternity. As I mentioned, all this Expanse stuff coming up. And I'll give it like a month or two, but after season 6 ends, I am going to do a rank every single episode of The Expanse.
Wow.
So that's probably going to be like a 3-hour video or something, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to rank every episode of The Expanse. So my Expanse coverage will not be over. I'm going to keep this going for a while. Also, on my channel, I cover all things Star Trek, doing Prodigy at the moment, doing retro reviews for older shows every once in a while, and covering Star Wars, Clone Wars. Just just recorded my review for season 5, which should be up in a week or 2 of Star Wars and Clone Wars. So anyway, be sure to check me out for all that. And again, thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time. Clever goodbye.
Beltalowda! And he keeps going. Okay, then the dance.